blaming myself.
Let's see. So I'm curious. It says attendee 0. I don't know. Do I have to? I don't see a waiting room either, though, on my side.
No, the count was higher, and then when we started, it went to okay. I think it's gonna climb now. I think they have to like click it again.
Hey, Rock.
Liam, welcome. Welcome, everyone. We're just starting. We're trying out a little bit of a new tech feature on the back end. You guys are using something called Luma. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, Luma's well, we did that for number 2 as well.
Okay. So not entirely new, but having some exploration on the tech side here. Welcome, guys. This is our now 3rd episode in this collaborative webinar series between Brian, Creatorland, myself, Mayan, Community Launchpad, and then the amazing guests that we bring in. Today we've got Jake Pearson. And just to give people a little bit more time to trickle in, if you are here and you've been to a previous webinar, I would love for you to let us know in the chat, or if it's your first time, you can comment that you're new, or if you've been here before, again, would love to know, is this your second, is this your 3rd webinar? And also let us know where you're from. I am coming to you from Seattle, Washington. Brian, you're in
LA.
And Jake is the most exotic of the places.
I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I see we've got someone from New Zealand, so that's my neck of the woods.
Amazing. We've got Vancouver Island. Love it up there. Beautiful. The mountains are looking gorgeous today, right? Like, I know we probably have a view of the same mountains from Seattle and Vancouver.
Is that the sunrise in your background, Jake? Is that what we're seeing there? No, it's your light. Oh, mood lighting. Okay.
It's a sunset lamp. We don't get much lighting at 8 a.m. in the morning, so I'm trying to set the mood.
Love it. All right, we're going to run a poll real quick. We kind of like to get a feel and let you guys see who else is joining the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. It's just 3 easy questions. Go ahead, fill it out, then I can share the results with everyone. First one, how long have you been creating content? Then which platform is your main focus? And how have you been monetizing? And today we're going to talk a lot about monetization. It's going to be very, very exciting. And in an area that I think, doesn't get enough attention in kind of the creator economy. We talk a lot about brand deals. We talk a lot about subscriptions. We talk a lot about, selling merch and products. And today we're going to be talking about UGC, which is really exciting.
I had to sort of fix that up. That was driving me insane. It still looks wonky on the camera, but it's not. I assure everyone, if you're staring at that during the webinar at any point.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results with you guys. So we've got most of the people here who've been doing this for 1 to 3 years. We've got, a good amount of TikTokers, a little bit of Instagram, a little bit of YouTube. And right now, most people are monetizing either through brand deals or still figuring it out, which is great. I can tell you, as someone who has been in the creator economy for over 10 years, I'm also still figuring it out, even though I've learned quite a few things and had, a lot of success. Things just change, so quickly in this space that there's always something new to figure out, no matter kind of where you're at. So we're going to dive right into things now. I'm going to let Brian introduce himself and introduce our guest, Jake. But again, the topic that we're going to really be covering today is a new playbook for you guys to make money. Whether you're just starting out or whether you're a little bit further along in your career, this is a huge opportunity that not a lot of people fully understand, and it's really how Jake has been able to transition from a part-time creator into a full-time creator, and I'll of course let him share his journey there. So Brian, go ahead and take it away and let the people know who you are.
Well, hey everybody, awesome to have you here. Thank you for joining today. It's my pleasure to have Jake on the webinar this week. Jake and I first met in late 22, maybe early 2023, and I was on his podcast, which was, what was it about? I'm blanking. I just typed it up this morning and posted on LinkedIn. What was it?
What makes you happy?
What makes you happy? Okay. And I was immediately very impressed with Jake. Jake had posted something like 80 videos already in 2023 by the time he posted mine, and they were all in the same year. And from outreach to editing to coordination, posting, and promotion, Jake was handling the entire thing front to back. So after being on the podcast, it wasn't long before I asked him to be the host of Creatorland's podcast, which we did 3 seasons of. He was fantastic on that. And during that journey, I saw Jake go from being a personal trainer to, I think that was the primary job that you were working, to now a full-time creator. And he's teaching me things about UGC. So an awesome journey to see. Really excited to have him share his insights with you guys. And Jake, welcome.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to talk all things UGC and content. You know, that makes me get out of bed in the morning. So ready to go.
Awesome. And everyone who's kind of listening right now, if you have any questions, whether they're related to UGC, whether they're related to anything creator economy, content, business, all of these things really intersect, please drop them in the comment section, and we will follow up. You know, 1, there's going to be a Q&A section here at the end, but 2, if we don't get to your question in that Q&A, we'll follow up in an email that we send out to everyone, not only with the key takeaways of what we're going to talk about, but also addressing some of those questions. So Jake, I would love for you to just start off and give a little bit of background, especially, you know, centered around that context of, you know, where you started working and figuring out how to make money just in general. I think a lot of that's where we start when we're young, right? We're all like, okay, how do I make money to survive on planet Earth? And then, you know, how do I do it in a way that's going to be fulfilling and satisfying and not make me lose my mind? All the way through to what you're doing now. And then in the context of that, if you could also, like, let's set the stage from the get-go. What is UGC? You don't have to say it up front, but when you get to that point of really getting to talk about how you transitioned into user-generated content, kind of explain a little bit what that even is.
Beautiful. Thank you. So hello, everyone. Welcome to my story. Now, when I started, well, I left high school and I was trying to figure out, how do I make money? I had no idea. I was one of those high school kids that was just kind of like, none of the traditional routes appealed to me. Like, I always aspired to be a content creator. Most recently, I think it was being a League of Legends Twitch streamer. That was the goal when I was leaving high school. I was terrible at the game, but I still wanted to stream. My friends always thought that I was going to leave school and just create YouTube, which I did. I fell into personal training just by chance, and it was just something that just sort of happened. You know, it wasn't like a plan. I'm going to leave school and become a personal trainer. I didn't even know what the career path looked like. When I moved in with a family member and they said, you should try it. I just went, yeah, I'll try it. Studied for a year. And then when I was 19, I was running a personal training business, a business from 19. I didn't try in high school. So I had no entrepreneurial bones in my body outside of just wanting to create content. And that started me on this long journey of figuring out how to run a business, which comes into it later as a UGC creator. So I was a personal trainer for 8 years. And within those 8 years, my goal was always, how do I make content? How do I become a creator? How do I use this as a stepping stone to do public speaking, to do YouTube videos, to do Instagram, or whatever it looked like? And that started off as creating content mostly separately from my career of a personal trainer. And it was all video games. Like, I was a big gamer. You know, I was playing League of Legends and all these other things. And I just wanted to make videos on that. So I did that, and I did it on a YouTube channel for about, and I was just looking at it the other day, that my last video was probably like 7 years ago, properly. But I was creating videos on that channel for a little bit. Through that period of running that business, I realized that, okay, I needed to upskill my skills, and I hired a mentor in the personal training space. His name was Matt, and he was fantastic for me because I was about 21 at the time, really unsure of how to take the next steps to grow my business. And he, along the lines, pointed me in the direction of podcasting, because he had podcasting of his own, had a podcast of his own, which was quite successful, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And that sounds nerve-wracking. And then, you know, he talked me through it, and how easy it was. And I thought, okay, now I'll give this a try. And at the same time, I had the opportunity to host that podcast on live radio. So I was at that point, I was like, hell no. And then he was like, that's two birds, one stone. Think of, you're crushing it to a local audience for your personal training market, and you're doing a podcast and you get to learn all these things. So that was cool. In the end, I was like, all right. So I did about 20 episodes in a radio studio. That was a completely foreign experience to me. At that point, being on my own, I tried that when I was about 15. And that's what set me on my journey of creating content, because when I was but just in the lead up to that whole podcast stuff, I was getting interviewed by the radio station before they approached me to do the radio show. And so I started filming myself when I was going live, and then clipping that into short little clips, having no idea that was going to take me to where I am now. And
I want to jump in real quick and ask a couple questions. So when you got this opportunity to do the podcast hosting and the live radio kind of in conjunction, was that a paid opportunity, or was it just something that you saw as like a big advantage to help you build off of?
Yeah, so it was an unpaid opportunity to do radio, but it was just like a cool experience and something I needed to jump at, which was also just going to give me the tools and the skills to use a radio studio and a podcast sort of like setting to film some really good professional content at the start. But being me at the time and being a perfectionist, I tried to write a script for my first episode, and I failed recording that like 6 or 7 times, because I tried to read it word for word before I gave up and just started ad-libbing it and went, okay, let's be more authentic here. Okay, that's what's going to resonate the most. And that will be important for later on. So fast forward through that, I podcasted through COVID for a couple of years, just doing this podcast called Redesign Your Body. It was a health and fitness podcast for my personal training business. And during COVID, I started to get really into personal development and learning about my self-confidence and all those things. And I started to post content on TikTok about it, what I was learning, on a TikTok page called It's Jake Pearson. And now I don't post that content anymore. But at that time, I was using that content to learn about myself. And I was posting, lessons that I was learning about my self-confidence and my self-doubt and my anxiety, and sharing that, and got some traction, just sharing my thoughts and feelings, and I built a bit of a following there.
So I'm going to ask a couple questions in here, because I love the direction this is going. So sounds like at first you were just posting content really around something you were passionate about, but there wasn't maybe a high level of skill or intention in like what that looked like and how that was going to build and lead to something else. Then you took this opportunity and said, you know what, even though I feel really uncomfortable doing the podcasting and the radio, that's going to help me make better content that is more attractive to an audience. And then when you started, kind of went from there, took some of those skills you developed onto just your education journey of personal development, that came through in a way that started to build audience. Is that kind of the journey so far?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. So now how did you go from there? You've got skills now that you've developed, you've got an audience you've started. What was the transition from doing all of that and feeling really good about the progress, but maybe not having that generate any revenue, to it starting to generate revenue for you?
That's a great question. And I distinctly remember the feeling of being incredibly frustrated, because I had an audience of say 80, 90,000 on TikTok at the time. And I was like, how do I monetize this? Because I'm not a professional in the mental health space. How do I monetize this? And that was a really big struggle. At that time, I didn't understand the many ways that you could probably have monetized content. And people have told me, after I've told them a few years down the line, oh, you could have done this, this, and this. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But at the time, I wasn't aware of that. So through all of that, creating content, led me to a new podcast called What Makes You Happy. It was 5 minutes. And that's where I met Brian. And I was just interviewing people all over the world thinking, hey, what makes you happy? And then getting a follow-up question of something tangible that they could share with the audience. And, we created over 130 episodes or something. And through that period is when I started to really connect with Brian regularly, ended up hosting the Creator Landscape podcast. And met a couple of people who introduced me to the concept of UGC, which is user-generated content. And I'll talk more about exactly what that is in a minute. But that's kind of how I got to the starting line of UGC. And I remember the distinct conversation with a colleague of mine who said, Jake, why don't you try UGC? I think you'd be good at it. And that was it. And that's how I got to the starting line of, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's see what that looks like. But all of those skills and everything that I've learned through that 8-year period, I had no idea at the time how that was going to be so beneficial into the transition of creating this type of content that was actually going to see me become a full-time creator.
Thanks, Jake. I just want to highlight for the audience, and please add to this, Mayan or Jake, if you feel like I'm missing something. User-generated content has a variety of use cases. We're actually working on this for one of Creatorland's clients right now. So this is where you are hiring a creator who is making content, but not necessarily and probably not posting it on their own channels. So use case for TikTok, for example. A brand is selling something, could be a game, could be a consumer good, could be like, could be a $50 beauty item, could be whatever. They have one user creator storytelling is by far the highest performing ad format. So, but you often won't know what content will perform in what community, what vertical, what audience is what I'm trying to say. And so what they'll do is they'll hire creators to make a library of content that they can then run ad experiments with. And the bigger the brand, the more this is happening. I know TikTok was doing this at thousands of pieces of user-generated content for running those ads on Meta from 2020, 2021, 2022. So they were doing this at like a crazy scale. So, but for TikTok, one of the best performing strategies for UGC for those who are running brands or looking at acquiring more traffic, I like to intersperse this kind of stuff because it's a big part of my day and background, is take that content, run it in organic channels if you have an audience that you built up on your own TikTok page. If not, running it with light paid spend, looking where there's any signal of performance, something like conversion on click or CTR or better engagement than some of the other creative. And from there, going back to the creator, if they have an audience, having them post it and then running paid behind that creator account. That's by far the highest converting form of user-generated content on TikTok. For Instagram, the ad formatting there can be a little bit different, but this is often what it's used for. One of the other things, sorry for my ramble here, but I feel like this is something I've been talking to a lot of brand managers about, especially brands that are not super with a large presence or really mature in terms of their kind of consumer engagement on social, where they're getting a really strong feedback loop of what people like. One of the things I love about working with creators for user-generated content is that they are going to tell you how a potential person in your audience would explain your business to their friend. And that's what I think is and it's also generally less expensive than having that creator post the content. And you're also then looking at different metrics as a brand manager, because maybe it was more expensive. So your measurement for value is different. But I think that that's one of the best pieces of this is you can get a lot of content, you can work with a lot of creators, but more importantly, you get to hear how they perceive the value that you bring to your customer. And that's a very opaque area for a lot of brand managers. So Jake, Mayan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, and then I'm going to throw a question at you, Jake. So I love what you're saying, Brian, especially you're talking about it really from kind of like the brand perspective, and to just restate a little bit of what you shared in different words. Brands don't know what's going to perform well. They often don't even know which direction to look at for content. And a content creator is naturally more in the buyer or customer perspective. And so they're able to it's not just creating the content, it's sharing these insights that can be really, really valuable to the overall content that the brand's looking to create. It can inform their email campaigns, it can inform their website copy. It really is information that applies overall to their brand and how they communicate it online to their audience. So that's one thing. I'll also say, I'll talk about it from, someone who's been a creator, and I've got a very large TikTok audience. I'm highly inactive with it now, but growing in 2020, which was pretty early for TikTok, and getting up to 2 million followers pretty quickly, I had a lot of brands reach out to me, and some of those were UGC based. So I can kind of speak a little bit about the opportunity for creators. And Tracy put an amazing comment in here. She's a UGC creator for the past 20 months as a 54-year-old. So there's wide demographics, literally no matter what age, gender, race, things you're into, there's a huge, huge market of brands that are going to want to spend money for you to create their content. That really comes from what Brian was saying, where it's vastly cheaper for them, especially in it's much more certain. So they are paying literally for the content, not so much for the performance. The performance is something they're testing around and figuring out, but just the content itself is something that they're unable to produce on their own. So think about anything from a solopreneur who has an e-commerce business, right? So maybe they've got a really thriving e-commerce business. I know a ton of people in the Amazon space who run a 1-person or 2-person shop and are doing like hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales per year on a product. And because they're making good money, they're like, we have to start creating content and not rely so much on Amazon. If you know anything about Amazon, it's a very, very fickle, non-secure platform, and the sellers on there are constantly worried that things are going to change and they're going to like lose all of their sales and revenue. So they're all very, very focused. And really, I started seeing this, again, especially in the Amazon space around 2020, 2021, where the largest Amazon conferences started inviting influencers to speak at those conferences. One of the major ones is Prosper that I got invited to, but there's a bunch of smaller and other, there's like Billionaire Summit, there's all these different conferences in the space. So they, really starting 2020, we're looking at how do we leverage influencer marketing. And they realized very quickly that paying the $2,000, $5,000 for a single post was not as good a strategy as spending that same amount of money for 20, 30 more pieces of content that they could then run ads against and test on, their own organic channels to see what was going to perform the best. So that's a little bit of the context as to, this is a huge market because there are, not exaggerating, at least hundreds of thousands of brands that have this problem where they don't have content, they know they need it, and they want to run ads against it. And they just don't know who's going to be able to make this content. They don't have someone in-house. They themselves are not a content creator. And that includes many, many brands who are not even asking for it because they don't know how to communicate it properly to the audience. So you'll see, like, one of the things I want to get into, and this is where I'll jump to asking you this question, Jake, but how do you find these opportunities, right, as a content creator? Well, one of them is actually by targeting brands and companies looking for a social media manager. A lot of times they'll write a job that says social media manager and they mean content creator. They just don't know how to communicate the complexity of we need content and we need someone to manage that, AKA create the content and then sometimes also post it. So Jake, I want to throw it back at you. How did you land your first UGC roles that were paid, and what did those look like?
Yeah, thank you. And great explanation, by the way, on the differences between influencer marketing and UGC, because that was something that took me a long time to wrap my head around. And if you're someone that's in a chat and you still don't quite understand, let us know in the comments, because we'd love to make that as simple as possible for you to understand. So I landed my first UGC deal and it was about 50 USD on platforms like Upwork and Fiverr, which predominantly that's where freelancers live. They're not specific platforms for creators, but more creatives and entrepreneurs who run their own solo empire. So that's people that are copywriters, they might do web design, they might do Adobe edits or Photoshop or something like that. There's just they're big marketplaces where people can come and be a freelancer, and businesses all around the world will come and search for freelancers and hire these people. So, and I think there's something like I was reading, it was like over 1 million businesses that use Fiverr every single month, right? So there's no shortage of businesses out there that are looking to hire for different aspects of their business. So I got my first UGC deal on Upwork, I believe, for about $50, and it was for a superannuation company. And all I did, and I'm looking at it right now, is a driveway out in front of me, outside my window. I walked down that driveway and I recorded a script with my phone in hand, reading that script with my front camera, and I clipped it all together and I sent that video off. Okay, so that was the first video that I did off Upwork. And I think the second one was off Fiverr, and it's a very similar style gig, but this one was for an app instead that was launching later on. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so that's great. I think, starting out, there's marketplace platforms. There are ones that are general, open to the public, and we had a great question. We'll send you guys a list of, Brian's going to drop a couple in the chat right now, but we'll also follow up.
It is my way. It's my way. I live in the chat.
Yeah, we love it, Brian. Thank God you live in the chat. But we'll also make sure to put together a list. Upwork is a really good one. Fiverr. I'm sure there's a bunch more. I'll do a little bit of research. But then there's also, this is what I love about Creatorland. Creatorland is a place where there's a job section, right? And you can find, specific, well, there's two sides to it, which I also love. It's not just people posting jobs. You can post a project. And Brian, why don't you just talk about that really quick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Great opportunity.
I mean, Creatorland is very networking driven at the moment, but we do have a pretty robust search product. UGC is one of the things that people can tag their accounts with. So I know we've got at least 8,000 creators on Creatorland today who have UGC as the type of work that they want to do or are actively doing. And you can also post a job there and get applicants and then review those applicants and hire somebody. We actually have a job open right now for UGC plus content creator work for one of our clients called Tari. I just posted a couple other links. Trend.io is UGC marketplace. So if you're a brand looking for quick turnaround and just trying to get some content fast, that's a good solution. Same thing for essentially NewsClip. One of the things that one of our questions that we had, I want to take us in that direction briefly, because I think this is very much on everybody's mind. It's a constant topic of conversation. I want us to cover a little bit, Jake, after this, how AI plays a role in your daily life, because I think editing is time consuming. We know that this work is not like something that can be done in an instant. It's not like, anyway, it takes time. So I want us to cover a little bit of that because you're somebody who I love talking through what you're using, what's new, sharing things, getting feedback. Tracy asked us, she's seeing a lot of work in the 40+ female category. I can attest to there being just an endless number of brands. This is a very consumer driven category. A lot of brands need that type of content. And she's focusing on, she is making sure that her voice is not being fed into AI solutions so these people can never pay her again and then just recreate her over and over again. Jake, do you have any thoughts around how AI might affect the roles of UGC creators in, really in the immediate future?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something I had the horror story for a few people there. So I gave away my likeness early on as a UGC creator, and I thought, I was getting paid. So I was like, why not? This isn't going to undercut me at all. And then I started seeing in the UGC community, a lot of people were against it. And I was like, oh, why? And they're like, well, as long as if you're getting paid per use of your likeness, then that's completely fine. But if they're just taking your likeness and then if you're only getting an upfront fee, then that's a different story. Anyway, so I had a video of a company that actually had someone come in, create a video of me, and they basically said they had found a product that was curing cancer or something like that. And I was like, I don't want my likeness. So this is a bad example of the use of AI and the implications of using your likeness. And I reached out to the company. I was like, I don't sign off on this. I don't appreciate this being said. This is a bit, I feel like maybe misinformation. And the brand was very apologetic. They had it removed. But then I asked them to remove my likeness after that because I no longer wanted my face being used and creating an endless amount of ads. I'd learned my lesson after a few people had messaged me saying, hey, this you, that doesn't look real. I'm like, so, but I do see a massive shift in some instances, like as it stands right now, AI isn't good enough to completely look human when it comes to UGC videos because, and if you can tell, the lips don't move properly, and it's mostly there's not a lot of emotion that comes from the top lip. It's only the bottom lip that moves in these AI looking UGC videos. That said, there are big limitations. So a brand may get a ton of videos with an AI creator very cheap, and that's great. And some of them may perform well, some won't. That's just what these types of ads or content looks like. However, when you're creating this content, it's only in one setting. Because when a creator films this content, it's a talking head video in that setting. So they're always going to use that setting. So the content can't get super dynamic and authentic like being a creator can. Just move around, film, talk to the camera, being out on the run. Like AI cannot replicate that at all right now. And I can't see it being able to replicate that just in the next couple of years. The technology is advancing pretty fast, but it doesn't create that type of real authentic, natural sit down type of content that people are still creating, which really stands out. And that's, I think, what user generated content really is it's super natural. It doesn't look presented like this in a nice lighting professional way. It's, I'm just going to grab my phone and I'm going to yap to the camera wherever I am and talk about a product and give my authentic thoughts and into a script. So that's a natural style UGC video. And if you've given an ad script, it's going to look a bit more polished. There'll be a few key points to hit on in that framework. But I don't think AI is going to be able to fully capture the really dynamic day in a life style UGC content, which brands want the most. So I don't think AI is going to replace creators for the foreseeable future because it's not going to be able to capture that really natural, dynamic style of content that you just see all over your TikTok feed of people in the gym talking to camera in their car, you know, all of those different dynamic scenes. It's just not going to take over in that space.
Thanks, Jake. I want to make a quick prediction here because this is something that seriously is coming up on a regular basis. I think right now there is an uncanny valley. That's that feeling of, you're looking at AI. I do believe that we are going to see a flood of user-generated content from brands that is AI generated. It's much cheaper. It can be done really quickly, and people are lazy. And a lot of times, a lot of marketers are overworked, or they're just trying to get some quick wins out there. They're trying to learn really quick. But the problem with that is that it's a little unaligned with the platform's interests. So TikTok is an entertainment solution. What is not entertaining is looking at derivative, nonstop UGC content from a creator brief that a brand uploaded into a platform, and you're seeing, the same ad with 10% different copy on, being read over and over again. So while I do think we're going to see over the next 6 to 8 months more adoption of AI generated UGC, I think it will ebb and flow out because it is not by nature creative. That's not AI's role. AI's role is derivative work. So I think people will get good at prompting, and then it will enable some creativity. But at the end of the day, Instagram and TikTok can't have nonstop feeds of AI. Otherwise, no one's going to retain. It's just not interesting at the same level that a creator will. The other thing that from a brand perspective is you're not really learning anything from the creator. The storytelling that's happening there is just a reflection of what bias or information you've already uploaded into the service. So while it still may play a role, and it might play a role in creating multiple versions if you have partnered with a creator to get their likeness for something, I don't think it's the best thing to do out the gate without being able to learn a little bit more about how your creator partners interpret your brand message and how that could go out to a wider audience. Mayan, any additional thoughts, or where do you want to take us next?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to totally kind of like, I agree with that. And a different way to say it is there's kind of two games businesses can play. There's maximizing what already works, and then there's finding additional or new things that work. The maximizing what already works is a game of diminishing returns. And it can, depending on the product, depending on the mechanism you're using as a brand, it can work really, really well for a typically short period of time, where it's squeezing the juice out of the orange, right? If you think about it like an orange, at some point there's like no juice left in the orange, no matter how hard you squeeze. And so even if at first it was more cost effective or efficient to just squeeze harder on what already works, at some point that runs dry. And so that's something that AI is very good at. If you already have something that's working and you want to reduce your cost or reduce your resources going to do that thing, AI is great at doing that. But if you're trying to figure out something that works, that's new, or that works even better than what you've got going on, human creativity is really the only thing that is going to get you that solution. And so I think no matter how good AI gets, there's always going to be a huge opportunity for people to be working in any type of creative space. So that being said, there's kind of two things that I want to point to next. One is, Jake, if you could share, how did you go from making $50 on these deals? And because we had a chat before, you basically transitioned from just using platforms to building out a UGC brand for yourself. And if you can explain what that means and how did that kind of create this snowball attraction for you. And then I want to share just a couple other ideas for you guys on ways that you can get these UGC deals without using specifically like a marketplace and searching through like jobs that are posted. So why don't you go ahead and take us through that transition from marketplace to now you've got like your own mechanism of growth.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, I still use marketplaces, but I don't actively go on and search for deals anymore. I used to do that predominantly at the start when I was trying to achieve a certain income level per week, just as a side hustle, because that's all it was. It was early on, it was just like, oh, this is a good way to make some extra coin. Now I just exist on the platforms and I let my really polished content do the talking. So if a brand pops onto my portfolio, they'll reach out to me. The same if I'm in agency databases, etc. But what I've gone and done as a UGC creator is created an Instagram and a TikTok centered around user-generated content, because you've got to think, we mentioned that brands still don't know what this is. They're looking for a social media manager. They don't actually know what a UGC creator can do for their business. They don't even understand what UGC is. They don't understand how a content creator could particularly benefit their business, because they're probably thinking, a content creator, oh right, they're going to be charging me thousands of dollars. They're thinking influencers. They're not thinking just a general content creator that creates user-generated content to be the face of their brand or the face of their ads for the next quarter or so. So what I recommend, and this is what I did, is create a Instagram and a TikTok, and I just named it UGC with Jake or Jake P Creative or something along that line. So it indicated that I was a UGC creator, because the brands that know what UGC is will be using that keyword to describe or find their creators, and that's how they search for them. So
Okay,
I
I want to pause right here before you go on, because this is such a good point in differentiation that I think people don't think of, is you created accounts for the brands to talk to them, not to sell the products that people were giving you. This was not accounts targeted at the general audience. This was an account you created very specifically so that brands who were interested in UGC could come to your channel and go, oh, this is the guy that I want to work with. So that differentiation, I think, is huge. Very, very few people I've heard or seen doing that. I think most people are trying to attract deals by just creating content that goes out to the mass audience or the consumers of the products that they're creating UGC content for. I think it's a brilliant idea that clearly has worked well for you, and I think other people could do really well with, to say, you know what, I'm going to start this channel, and you can still have your regular channel. This would be like even an additional one. This one is just me talking to the brands and positioning myself as someone that they're going to want to hire.
Absolutely. And I have a personal Instagram, which I don't really post on a lot. And at the time I did put UGC in that. I've kind of scrapped all that, and I've just kept a professional looking creator-based channel that speaks to brands, but also other creators. So I network a lot with other creators in that space. And then I create content that when a brand lands on my page looking for a creator, they can immediately see, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's got great audio quality. His visuals are great. He's super relatable. I just like his vibe. I want to work with him. What's his process like? Go into my bio. Okay, let's see. Okay, I've got a link in my bio to a portfolio, and this is just on Canva, and anyone can create this for free. I created a My Canva site, and I just put a little bit of about me. My name's Jake. Here's who I've worked with as a brand. Here are some of my statistics. So I've taken screenshots of, the likes and the shares and the analytics of the videos that brands have used me for, and pop that in there so that when they look, they go, okay, Jake, he creates really good content. Also, here's some data to back it up. I show some of my best performing videos, and then you could then have a contact me, or you could have a little bit about your rates and your email there. So a brand can then take that step further to start negotiating or getting in contact with you to create some content. And that's what I have my Instagram for. So my Instagram is basically, in business terms, my top of funnel. When a brand is looking to hire a creator, they'll go to Instagram or TikTok, and they'll search UGC Creator Australia, UGC Male, UGC Melbourne. There's some of the keywords that they might search for me, or Aussie UGC Creator. I might pop up in that point at some point, and they'll go click. They'll look at my content. They might follow me. They might send me a message. I get a lot of messages on Instagram at the moment. So the more active you are with your content, you might get a lot more messages as well. And then I'm getting emails from that. So that's where I'm getting a lot of inbounds directly to my email these days, outside of platforms like Fiverr, Upwork, Billow, Creator Flow, Get Clip. There's so many marketplaces out there, but I've decided to become my own professional storefront and showcase my work in a platform that I can control. And I have the freedom to create whatever I want within that sort of niche. So I'm not just posting about UGC. So what you can post is UGC examples. So if you've created a video for your client and you've got your permission to the brand's permission to share that, you can post that after the brand has used that content, so it doesn't infringe on when they post it, and that shows other brands the types of content that you can create. You can do day in the life vlogs of being a UGC creator, which is very common. You can share your learnings as a UGC creator to brands. You can give advice to brands. You can just share more about yourself and your creative process. And this is essentially what I did, is I started sharing different aspects of what I like about content creation, who I am as a person and a creator, the types of equipment that I have, the settings that I can film in, my dogs, different content examples, things I love about content, and building up a portfolio so that when a brand comes to my Instagram or my TikTok, and they can see, wow, Jake has a lot of variety when it comes to content creation. He's got a lot of examples. We really like his vibe. I want to reach out to Jake. I want Jake to be the face of our brand or the face of our ads for the next quarter. And Brian's just brought up here the portfolio. I don't know if you want to say much about this, Brian, but as you can see there.
Yeah. It's
I do.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brian, go ahead and share. Everyone who's on here should go ahead and look at this site. Again, we'll send the link out, but this, just copy this in terms of go ahead.
Yeah. So we've got, this is what I really like about this. We've got right away showing that this is results. This is linking that we've got a wide breadth of a background and experience with results being displayed right here. Okay, we've got these, it's embedded. They don't have to click out. They can watch the content right from here. Thinking about thinking about your customer. How do you make things convenient for that customer? How do you make it easy for them to buy? Okay, great. We got our health and wellness content. We got our website and apps. This allows the brand is going to be in one of these categories no matter what. They can go, okay, I don't care about health and wellness. Okay. I actually, no, yeah, we're in personal care. This is what I want to pay attention to. Versus a wall of past work that has no context means that your customer isn't able to jump directly to what matters to them. And we go through the list here. Hook variation examples. What we're doing, what Jake's doing here is showing that he's trying with his clients. He's thinking about hook variants. He's actually educating them for free here too on just what a hook is, that there are different versions of it, and that a great partner is going to be thinking about that and giving you different options. The results is really powerful. it just shows that you as a partner are thinking about the returns that your customers get. You're not just delivering something that they ask for. You want to know how things go so you can either celebrate that or also improve. Um, and we've got case studies here. This is like the type of thing an agency builds to sell their services to a client. Like, hey, here's what we've done. Here were the results. Here's who we've worked with. Um, here's testimonials. Like I've mentioned this in every webinar we've had, and we've had 3, but I can't stop bringing it up. The testimonials are so key because everybody wants to buy from somebody that they can trust. They have no reason to trust you. And then this just gives them that reason. And this is like the type of thing that's going to get you 15% more leads off of the site traffic. And then a great like kind of services offering. So I just thought it was worth walking through there. I'm kind of repeating what I put in the chat text, but seeing it live I think is helpful for people. I also didn't know you could do that cool green screen thing, so I just kind of wanted to do it. But I really think you guys should think about how these how you're presenting information on your pages. One of the things I sorry if this is a hard segue, but that is very much my personality, which is coming out more and more on these webinars as I get more comfortable. Jake, how did you decide your rates?
Yeah, so to decide my rates was really just at the start, I was like, well, I'm not experienced. I knew I wasn't experienced in creating that type of content. So I sort of just went with a low rate of about $50 for the video. And what actually taught me the value of user-generated content was a couple of things. So brands reaching out to me with a bigger budget. So I was like, okay, they're willing to pay me more than $50 a video. Fantastic. I think one of my second or third deals on Fiverr was, it ended up being $1,400 Australian, or maybe like 700, 800 US. And I was like, for a couple videos, are you sure? And then following other creators in the space. So when I built a UGC account, it recommended me other UGC creators. So I started following a bunch of other creators, and they were all talking about all different sorts of things, asking different questions to the community of, content creators, UGC creators specifically. A few coaches were in the space as well, just educating and nurturing these younger creators, much like what we're doing now is sharing this information. And that's how they present themselves. And they would talk a lot about pricing based off beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And I kind of, through watching other creators, seeing what the professional standards were, because remember, when you become a content creator like this, yeah, you're a content creator, but now you're a business owner. Okay. So that's where all those 8 years of experience really helped me as a personal trainer to really make that switch easy. I'm like, okay, I'm not just a content creator, I'm providing a professional service with what I'm doing here. And then I just started thinking about my personal training experience, how I priced that based off the value, how I'd sell packages, how I'd sell individual sessions. And I started applying that to my content creation. So as I created a few different videos for brands, and I got to understand the time I needed to spend scripting. The time investment is the big thing here. How much I needed to film, how much I needed to edit, if I needed revisions. I kind of thought, how am I willing to price my time here per concept or per video for each brand? And so it started off at 50 Australian dollars. I might have moved myself up to like 100, then 150. This is probably over about 6-month period. It sort of hovered around that 150 mark for a while once I realized brands were paying that. But I didn't increase my rates until I was confident, and I mean confident in my quality. So when I became really proud of the fact that I was using really good quality audio, when I was using really good quality lighting, when I was coming across really authentic, when I started getting case studies from brands of really good results from my videos, and like the likes and the shares on the organic content was looking good, the more I stayed in the space and the more I worked on this. And I was doing this in between all the personal training stuff, spending lots of time researching and learning how to create better hooks, better visuals. I was always looking to progress. And at just certain stages, I was like, okay, my content has evolved. I'm proud of where it's at. I think this is worth more than what I have previously been charging. And then because I was starting to get more demand as well, more demand, okay, I can't keep charging the same. Otherwise, I'm going to be exhausted and working all weekend. I need to increase my prices. So I did that. I eventually moved up to $200 Australian a video. Then I quickly went to $250. And now I fluctuate between 250, 300, maybe, and then hooks and stuff are extra, and that, you know, there's add-ons there per video. And I'm at that point now because of demand, but I've also been in the industry for nearly 2 years. I've got quite a little bit of experience. I create high quality visuals and great quality audio quality content. So yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but I just know that because of my analytics that I've gotten from brands and what brands are prepared to pay me and offering me, that I can, and aren't, they're accepting when I'm quoting them, that I can effectively quote them for those pieces of content. So that's a bit of a from A to B process of how I discovered my rates and increased them.
Awesome. There's a couple things I want to highlight in there. So one is you approach this from a business owner's mindset, from an entrepreneurial mindset. And so, you know, one of the things that I heard you say, and that I know we talked about in our previous meeting, is, you know, part of what you're going to price things is going to depend on what stage you're at, right? And not just stage based on your skill set, but stage based on your goal. So I think it's really, really super important. Like, any business needs a revenue goal, and there has to be like a reason why that goal specifically. So for example, if you're someone who is doing this part-time and your goal is to be able to do it full-time, then it's really, really important for you to know exactly how much money you have to make in exactly what amount of time to be able to hit that goal. So one of the things that I know we talked about, that like when I started in content creation, I did not do this for like years and years and years, and I really wish I had sooner, which was like budget, like just even figure out and write down what my expenses were every month. It sounds really trivial. It's very boring. I totally, understand why people don't do it, like myself, but just understanding how much money do I spend every month. So that's at the very bare minimum, not accounting for taxes and like other savings, other things like that. You need to at least hit that goal, or you're just not going to be able to do it full time, right? You're going to go into debt. No one wants to go into debt. So really being clear, how much are you spending? And also being really realistic with how much time do I actually have to put into work? And then, actually tracking how much time does it take me to do different things, right? So when you talked about starting to pay attention to how long it took you to script, to how long it took you to come up with hooks, come up with these different parts, that's going to inform your pricing for how much you need to charge, right? So you start with that, here's how much I have to be charging. And if I'm not able to get that much from brands, then maybe I have to at first do some lower deals to build up that beautiful website that you've got there, right? So there are different elements that can help you elevate your price. Besides just, just your skill, there's the perception, right, to a brand. There's the website, there's the testimonials. All of that can help you increase your pricing. And to get that, maybe you have to take on work that isn't at your ideal price point. But then you go from a needs-based to, let's say, a want-based. So now I'm doing this full time, I'm making enough money. What's my next goal? And how do I get there? Those are the things to be asking yourself. And again, there's tons of different tactics. There's lots of different methods. There's going from, you know what, right now I'm getting everything inbound. I'm going to start an outbound strategy. So this is where I just wanted to share very quickly. One of the very untapped ways that this is a huge, huge avenue, is to direct message brands or brand owners, especially through LinkedIn and Creatorland. So a lot of the people on Creatorland are looking for UGC content. They're not going to create a job listing. They're not actively sharing that they're looking. And this addresses a little bit of your question, Tracy. It is a networking, platform at the moment. And I'll let Brian speak to like where maybe this is, where Creatorland is going in the future. But if you start engaging with people in those, connection requests and responding to their messages and sharing a little bit about your area of expertise, you'll find that a lot of them are looking for UGC creators or brands that are willing to pay for that. So having some type of outbound messaging strategy, especially paired with a really nice looking website and portfolio, that can really help not only in terms of getting more deals, but also elevating your price point because of demand because of perception, all of those different things. And then,
Yeah, I love that. We're on our 4 or 5 minute warning here. So Mayan, anything you want us to make sure we cover?
no, I think we got a lot here. I guess, Jake, do you have like one short piece of advice that like you think is maybe one of just the most important things that people know about UGC and about, getting into this?
Yeah, 100%. Get into it for the right reasons. I've seen a lot of people in the space get into it because they think it's quick and easy money, and they don't realize that they're actually creating content that is a service, and they're acting as a business, and they're serving a particular type of client. So if you're just going into it with the mindset of, oh, this is a quick way to make money, you're setting yourself up for, I believe, to be failure, because it's so much more than just you making money. And if you just go into it with that mindset, you're not going to get good enough to actually make the money that you think you can make from creating content. So I would approach it from a perspective of, if you love creating content, like really love creating content, this is an opportunity for you to explore the dynamics of creating so many different pieces of content and finding which avenue you love and getting paid to do so at the same time. And that's what it was for me. It was an opportunity to create content and get paid, which was always my goal. When I started those YouTube videos 10 years ago in high school, or wanting to do Twitch streaming, I was always wanting to be a full-time content creator, basically getting paid to create content in some way, shape, or form. That was the intentions with the podcast that I've hosted as well, is leveraging content to make an income for myself. So approach it with the mindset of, is this something you want to do? Do you want to create content? Do you want to make a living from creating content? Or do you want to just make money, and content is just what you have to do? Because one determines your longevity in the space, and one determines whether you just burn out and stop doing it very quickly because you realize that it's not something you want to do. So get into it for the right reasons for yourself, not, and everyone's got different reasons, but if you want longevity in the space, have a bit of a love for creating content and approach it from just how to create better content all the time, and just fall in love with that whole creative process. That's going to make it so much easier to make the $2,000 a week, $3,000 a week that some people claim that they can make. Or if it's just to cover your expenses and making $700 a week, it doesn't matter. I have been able to only get to where I am because I love creating content so much, and I'm living my dream. So this is something I've always wanted to do, and now I'm living that. So it comes from this really innate why of wanting to do it. Okay, so it's not just something I woke up one day and went, I'm going to create content because it's a fad. No, I've always wanted to do this, and that's why I've been so successful.
That is like the perfect thing to end on. And I think that that's true in anything that we do in life. Like, life is very, very long. And everything is pretty much harder than you think it's going to be. So making sure that you're doing it for a reason beyond, just that you hate doing something else, and having like something that pushes you forward, I think is super important. Thank you so much, Jake, for sharing all of those insights in your journey. Thank you, Brian, as always, for the hard pivots. Those are always good to keep it interesting. And being really good in the chat. We will follow up with you guys. You'll get not just one, but 2 or 3 follow-up emails. You'll get one, I think, tonight. And then as we have time to process and create some more resources to share with you guys, you'll get another one that'll have the recording in it. So if you missed any of this, if you want to go back to a particular part, you can definitely do that. And again, this is a series, so look out for the next one. We're going to be having, continually like more of these around once a month. And, I really got a lot of value out of this. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, sorry. Sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to share one thing before people start to drop. Next Tuesday at noon, we are having a live kind of product overview Q&A session. We're looking for feedback. We're going to be talking about a new product we're developing called Deal Sync that is kind of designed to, with one click connection to your Gmail inbox, give you a pipeline management to-do list, help you navigate your clients, and stop getting out of that morning 30-40 minutes of managing spam. So this product is we're targeting kind of a Q2 release, but we want to build it in partnership with our community. So we'll share that link in the follow-up. I can pull it really quick for those of you who are still here. We had a 20 person target. We're almost there. That was the capacity, but obviously anybody from the webinar who wants to join will get you off the wait list. So thanks for letting me just plug that real quick, Mayan. I'd love to see anybody there who can make it.
Yeah, always. Brian is, developing really, really cool, unique products for the creator economy and space. So there will be more of that to come. Thank you guys all for joining. I know it's Friday. You probably got hopefully fun plans. So appreciate you showing up. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks
everyone.